Does it feel like your twin flame separation is endless? Like a never-ending cycle of healing that just keeps going up and down, up and down. 1 minute you're high, next minute you're low. This is the surrender stage. And I thought the surrender stage was supposed to be easy because we were surrendered. But it actually goes back and forth from surrender to unworthiness to surrender to unworthiness. But we have to trust these cycles. We're healing in layers and it's going to take time. My name is Cleary. I'm a feminine empowerment coach. I specialize in healing after narcissistic abuse, and I also offer twin flame and spiritual guidance. This is it. Like, whenever I done research on all of the stages of twin flames, the surrender stage seemed the easiest. I was never really told this is a cycle that you're going to go through. And the surrender stage is the most cyclical stage that we can go through, or the bipolar stage in a sense, because surrender means surrender. And for me, surrender is complete relax, complete calm, complete knowing, complete trust. And I've gone through that on and off, on and off, on and off, on and off. And in between that, there was huge crashes of unworthiness. And I think this is it. Like, we go through runner chaser. So for a time, we're chasing our twin flame, or we're seeking validation. We're running after them all the time. And then the surrender stage comes in, where we're stopped chasing, but we go through all the healing. When I was in the surrender stage, I thought it was never ending. I've described it before, like you're walking up that mountain, you're crawling up the mountain at this stage. You know what I mean? We've been walking the mountain so long, we can't see the top of it. The clouds are in the way. You kind of start giving up hope. And you're literally crawling up on your hands and knees, wondering, is this ever going to end? And you genuinely, this is where the frustration comes in, the anger comes in. This is why I got so confused when I was in the surrender stage, because I was genuinely surrendered in between all the fucking blood, sweat and tears of the unworthiness wound being coming up again. And this is it. I know our wounds are deep. And I've said this before, we heal in layers. We're healing deep layers of childhood trauma, past relationship trauma, and past life trauma. We're healing so much. So we have to go deep, 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 deep. But for me, I've been doing inner child healing for such a long time. That's connected to the unworthiness wound. I've been doing all the witch wound energy. I've been healing left, right and center. So for me, every time the unworthiness wound came up, I was like, not again. You know what I mean? And it was really bad. When you get into the ups and downs of surrender, it's literally for 1 minute or for a couple of days or whatever it is, you're empowered, you're feeling sovereign, you're feeling good, you're moving forward, everything is actually working out. And then all of a sudden you get a trigger, whether you see a trigger through your twin flame or their actions trigger you, or even just your thoughts trigger you, and you go crashing straight back down. And the worst part is when you crash again, you literally think, what the fuck? It feels like I've done nothing. It feels like I've done no healing at all. And it gets so frustrating. And I went through these phases over and over again, up and down, sideways, backwards, all of it. And I really got to a stage where I got so angry. I was like, what the fuck? I'm doing this again and again and again. This unworthiness wound is deep, deep, deep. And it's actually only when I got under the unworthiness wound and found my self-disgust wound that I actually truly was able to clear it. But it was genuinely, you lose all, surrender is supposed to be, for me, it was supposed to be calm. It was supposed to be, everything's going to be all right. I'm not chasing anymore, so everything's going to be fine. And it did feel like that in between the cycles of healing. And no one tells us this. I'm genuinely, I the amount of research I've done on all the stages, I was never told surrender was the hardest stage. Because, you think, the runner chaser phase is hard because you're running after them and you're getting rejected and all this kind of stuff. But I thought the surrender stage was absolutely horrendous. Absolutely fucking horrendous. And I genuinely, I got to a stage towards the end of the surrender phase for me that I nearly gave up. I genuinely said, I'm done. I said, I'm moving on. I'm going to call it. The first time throughout my whole journey that I was like, I'm going to call in a soulmate. I'm done with this shit. But the minute I tried to do that, all the signs and synchronicities came back and the universe literally slapped me in the face and said, don't give up. You're nearly there. And it's like that analogy. When the person digging for gold, they're digging and they're digging and they're digging and they never get anywhere and then they give up. And 5 minutes later, somebody comes, digs the same fucking hole and found the gold. Do you know what I mean? So, when we're really, really feeling like I'm going to give up, that's the moment you really need to push forward again and keep going. And it's so hard. I know how hard it is because genuinely, it felt, I was in this energy of, this is a never-ending story. This is literally never going to stop. Am I going to feel this pain over and over again? Am I ever going to feel worthy of this love? Am I ever going to feel deserving of it? Because every time I crash, I felt like shit again. I was like, he's never coming back. He's never going to choose me. And effectively, I wasn't choosing myself. You know, all this stuff came up, and I was just like, am I ever actually going to get to a stage where I feel good enough? Where because, you know, the amount of times on my journey, I've said to myself, I feel worthy, I feel deserving of love. But that deep inner wound kept saying, yeah, but you're not. No one's going to love you. No one ever loved you. Or, you know, remember what this person did, or remember what your twin flame did, or, you know, you know, all of these things come up to prove to you, or, you know, there's not proof, but like, you know, it's perceived proof that you're not good enough. And so you end up crashing again and again and again. And when we claw ourselves out of that deep unworthiness wound, we finally gain strength again and feel empowered. And we're like, thank fuck, this is good. Smooth sailing from here. And we do feel really good for a while. Everything is fine. And then bang, another trigger comes in and we go down, down, down again. And it's just like, how? Why? And I think one of the hardest parts for me on my journey was like, every time I went down, it felt like so hopeless. It was like, it's like all of the work, like, you know the way, like they say, keep going and all the hard work will pay off. And when you're in that hyper or that high empowerment phase or energy, you feel like, you know, I'm seeing results to my work. And then you crash again, and it's like, was it all for nothing? Like, what the fuck? Did any of my healing work? Am I not back? It feels like you're back at ground zero. It feels like you're back at the very start. And it's just like, am I ever going to get to the phase where it feels okay, where I'm actually surrendered? Because how can I be actually in surrender mode or surrender phase if every fucking couple of weeks I'm in unworthiness phase again? They should literally say, this is the bipolar phase of awakening, or of your spirit, or of your twin flame connection. This is the bipolar stage. People should tell us this. People should warn us that surrender doesn't mean all fucking unicorns and rainbows. It literally means a lot of hard work. I think our surrender stage is where the deepest work comes in. The deepest healing comes in. And it's fucking hard. You know, I went through so much heart chakra, I will say opening, but they were breaking. Like, you know, when your heart actually awakens, it breaks open, it bursts open. And like, I literally, throughout the surrender phase for me, I was literally like a fucking open 1 minute, close the next, breaking open the next minute, closing again. Because every time your heart breaks open, all you want to do is close up again, put back up those walls and say, I can't do this shit. You know what I mean? And that's how it felt. It felt like the top of that mountain was never actually going to come. It genuinely, you know, the doubts come in, the real doubts come in. I know throughout our journey, there's a lot of doubts. We go from, you know, doubt to faith all the time. 1 minute you're like, you know, this is not real. I'm crazy. They're not coming back. There's no signs that they're coming back. They're not contacting me. So I'm wrong. And then the next minute you're remembering all the magic that happened to bring you together. The telepathic connection, all that synchronicity, how your minds are so connected, your souls are so connected. So then you come back down and you're like, yes, I have faith, this is real. But it literally goes around in circles for so long. And as I said, I went through a phase, or you know, an energy anyway, of literally giving up. I wanted to give up. It was so fucking hard, and I was like, is it ever going to happen? And I think that's the hardest part of the surrender phase, is because we're just literally, we're walking a path that is invisible. We have no proof. Like, we can do every journey is unique. We can do that research. We can be reassured by a tarot reading or whatever it is, but we never actually get to, we feel like we're not actually getting to a stage of complete and utter peace and calm and knowing. Like, you know, the in-between parts, when you are empowered and stuff, this is for me for the surrender stage. Even when I was in my empowered mode in the cyclical energy, you know, when you, I've said this before, I've seen this quote, and I was like literally saying, universe, show me a sign. And then you get a sign, and then you're like, show me a sign of your sign. And it's literally like every time I got a sign in surrender stage, I was like rolling my eyes going, yeah, whatever, this is not fucking happening. You know, this bullshit, you're lying to me. I was like literally saying to the universe and the angels, you're fucking lying to me. And I would get so, if I saw a sign, I would literally get angry, because I was like, fuck this shit, I'm working so fucking hard. You're showing me all the signs in the world and nothing is fucking happening. How am I supposed to have faith when you're fucking lying to me? And I was like, literally, this is the energy I'd be in when I was in that cycle. And to get to a stage, like, you never really, you go through little bouts of knowing, if you get me. You remember that magic and you're like, okay, maybe it is real. But the minute you start thinking it's real, then the minute your unworthiness one comes back in and goes, yeah, but they're not going to choose you. You're not worthy. So like literally every time we did have a little bit of faith, our own mind and our own wounds said, no, you're wrong. You're crazy. Do you know? So like, I think that's the most frustrating part, is that you're climbing this mountain and you're black and blue, you're bleeding, you're crawling on your hands and knees at this stage, and you just don't know what's happening. And I suppose that's the stage it's the most disheartening phase, but it actually does end. Like, I don't know how long mine went on for, and I don't know when it switched. Well, it did. I think I knew when it started to switch. Because when I found the deeper wound beneath my unworthiness wound, my self-disgust wound, when I found that, I did a lot more intense deep healing than I was already doing. I was already doing deep healing anyway. But when I found the real deepest wound that was keeping me in unworthiness energy, that's when I started to climb back out of the hole, I suppose. Do you know what I mean? It just felt like, I felt like I had an idea, or, you know, proof, or more of an understanding of why I was still holding on to my unworthiness wound. And I say still holding on. The way I see it, right, and this is what I learned, is I was actually holding on to the wound longer than I needed to. And what I mean by that is, we're so used to feeling unworthy. We're so used to not feeling good enough. We're so used to identifying as that past person who was abused, who was treated badly, who was neglected, all of that stuff. So most of my life, or all of it, more than all of it up until a few weeks ago or a few months ago, like literally for all of my life, I felt this deep, deep self-disgust. I thought, because of my childhood, because of my past, because of what was done to me, because of some mistakes that I made, that I was just not worthy of any kind of love. And that's really it, you know. And then when I started to connect those dots, like I'd already connected my unworthiness into my inner child, to my past relationships. But when I dug that much deeper, I realized it was an identity I was holding on to. And this is it. We hold on to an identity based on our environment, or based on what we've learned, or based on what we've experienced. So this was an identity from my past. But I had to realize, and I remember this, you're not your past, you're not your childhood, you're not your parents. You are who you choose to become. And this is a fact. We learn. We put out a persona. You are born a clean slate, worthy of love. Absolutely. That's it. So put you as a baby into an environment of toxicity, of abuse, of narcissism, of aggression, of whatever, you know what I mean? And then you're going to grow up in a world that you feel neglected or unloved. Do you know what I mean? And then if you put that child into a warm, loving environment, it's going to be a different story. Do you know what I mean? So like you learn what's around you. So I learned toxic masculine traits effectively, because I grew up in a house with two men, my dad and my brother. So I was a tomboy. I learned an identity of being in a masculine energy. And that's a fact. And like literally, I had to unlearn that behavior. I was very unfeminine. I didn't have a handbag for years. I was like, you know, I felt like one of the boys. I drank, I drank and spoke like one of the boys. I cursed like the boys, all that kind of stuff. I was literally identified as one of the boys. And that was an identity that I held on to. I thought that's who I was. And, you know, being girly was like, ugh, no, I don't want to be girly. Do you know what I mean? And now I love my femininity, absolutely love it. But that's because of the environment I was in. So I unlearned toxic traits. And I also had to tell myself I have to unlearn the identity I was holding on to. And that identity was an identity of unworthiness. That identity was an identity of self-disgust. So it was actually only when I realized that my unworthiness was an identity, it's a real wound that we have to heal and release. But I kept going around in circles. And I know, as I said, it's deep, deep, deep that we have to heal in layers. But I kept continuing in the same cycle because I kept holding on to an identity. And this was it. It was like I was afraid to see myself as the amazing person that I am. I was afraid to see myself as deserving of love because it was unknown, because it was scary. Because this is it. The old identity became so familiar that even if it was toxic, it's like, ooh, I can't. You know, this was my comfort blanket for so many years. You know, if I leave that, it's going to be scary. You know, it's unknown, it's unfamiliar. You know, that's not me. And I kept saying, like, you know, I had to keep saying to myself, right, am I the person that I was? You know, and I was never a bad person. I grew up in a bad environment, or, you know, I was in bad relationships and I was treated badly by men. And I identified as the person they created, I suppose, because I identified as who they made me think I was. So that was unworthy, worthless, useless, all that kind of stuff, disgusting, all of it. So I was identifying as a false self. But it was who that unworthiness was who I was for a very long time. It felt like who I was. It consumed me effectively. And that's what wounding does. It overtakes your life. Like, you're living in a trauma bubble based on what you've been through. You're living in fight or flight. You're living in survival mode. And as you start to evolve out of that, it does get scary, but it does happen. So coming out of that wound, or coming out of that identity, more so than anything, because the wound can be healed, the wound can be released. When we release and heal the wound, the identity can still hold. So like, even if you understand where your wound came from, there's still a depth underneath it that you're holding on to that identity as a form of kind of self-sabotage. It's like, if I stay in my old identity, if I stay where I am, if I don't let somebody in, if I don't let my twin flame in, then I'm okay. Then I won't get hurt again. So like, it's like, I would rather feel disgusting than potentially get hurt. That was the way my unconscious mind was working. It was like, I would rather feel pain and unworthiness because it's familiar, instead of, you know, giving myself the potential of getting hurt by somebody again. You know what I mean? And so like, it was like, which is harder? The familiar pain I already know, or the unknown pain I could experience if I get hurt or rejected? So it's like, you know, I'm used to this. We'll just stay here. Asher's grand, like, you know, it's fine. I'm used to it. And instead of moving forward and saying, you know, I deserve better. And like, you know, it's worth it. Like, it's like, I know we fear rejection. I know we're fearing the worst case scenario again. But we're not the same people we were. If we remove ourselves from that identity, if we evolve and, you know, grow, we're not going to attract the same people anymore. So we're not going to actually get hurt the way we were before. Do you know what I mean? We're not going to be abused like we were before. That's not going to happen because we're too strong for that now. We won't attract those kind of people anymore. So your new identity is a protection. It really is. Like, it literally is a shield against narcissistic energy or abusive energy. But you have to get there by releasing that old identity. And then that's how we go from surrender to illumination. Do you know what I mean? And the next video I'll do will be about the illumination stage, which is obviously the best stage of the fucking whole lot. But anyway, like, well, it's the second best because obviously union is the best. But like, you know, for me, I've been like, I was on a catalyst journey for a long time. I went through a lot of stuff on that, and I went through all the stuff again, kind of only more intense on my actual journey. So I never got past, you know, the surrender stage. So like, and you don't really hear about the illumination stage. We just hear surrender and then you hear union. So like to actually claw yourself out of the surrender stage into the next phase, it's crazy. It's fucking crazy. Because when you're in this familiarity for so long, and I've done so much research on top of actually experiencing it, do you know what I mean? And when you know so much about surrender, well, I didn't really know much about surrender until I was in it, but like that's what confused me. As I said, like, you know what I mean? It's like I thought I was surrendered, but yeah, I keep going through so much pain. And I think as I said, the surrender stage is probably our deepest healing. It's where we do the biggest work. I didn't know this till after. Do you know, it would have been easier to know this before. I suppose we're not supposed to know before, are we? But like, you know, it would have been easier to know going into surrender that I would be in a bipolar energy, that it would be really a roller coaster. Because like, you know, you're in this energy of, oh yeah, I'm at surrender stage, which is a good stage to be in. And you think that you're moving forward. But then when you keep going in the cycles of highs and lows, you're literally like, am I actually going forward at all? Or am I just falling back down this? I'm rolling back down the cliff every time. It's like, that's the way it is. I crawl up the mountain just to fall over and roll back down. And that's what I felt like. I felt like I was going down again and again. It was just like, am I ever going to actually be able to get to the top? Am I ever going to see the top? Is the top even there? Am I doing this for nothing? And obviously you're not doing it for nothing. So like, you know, even if we were all crazy and even if twin flame union didn't happen, your inner healing is still happening. You're doing this work for you. Do you know what I mean? The twin flame union is obviously the cherry on the cake. But if this was all for just your healing, you're still winning. Do you know what I mean? So you're not just like, you know, when we say we're going to give up on our twin flame or give up in the journey, you're actually saying you're going to give up on yourself and your healing. And that's what you're like, that's it. Like this is why it's so important to keep pushing forward. You're doing that work for you. You're doing that work for the future of humanity. If you do that, you're actually energetically healing other people as well, but you're actually giving people the incentive to do their own work as well. You're showing them that I know it's hard, but it's worth it. Like I know, right? I have been through that energy of surrender, that surrender cycle for a long time. And it was fucking hard. But I will never ever go backwards. And what I mean is I would rather go through that cycle again and again and again and again and again and again and again than go back to my old life, to go back to my old way of living, to suffer the way I did. To holding on to trauma is absolutely fucking detrimental for your mental and physical well-being, for your whole life. It dictates your whole life. When you're in a trauma bubble, you don't actually live, you just exist in survival mode. So doing this work is so important for you. And then it's so good when you finally get to the stage where the pain and the fear is gone. And it does get there. It actually does. I'm still going around the place going, what is this? Like, remember I did the video on the what the fuck is happening phase? Because that happened to me just after surrender. And I was in this energy. I wasn't in illumination, as we say, right? So like I was in this energy of, I have no idea what's going on. Nothing has changed. 5 minutes ago, I was ready to give up. And now I'm literally going, I have no idea what's going on, but I feel okay. So I started to feel calm. I started to feel okay. And then it was like, I went from the what the fuck is happening phase, complete confusion, because I literally went from feeling pain, unworthiness, disgust, to feeling a sense of complete, I don't know what's next. I was that liminal phase between surrender and illumination. And I was just like, where am I? What's going on? I feel okay, but nothing has happened. Yesterday I felt like shit, now I feel grand. And I'm just like, wait, what? That's why I call it what the fuck's happening phase. Because that little phase in between is just like, I have no idea. And then I went from that phase to complete and utter calm and knowing. And happiness. And freedom. And empowerment. And excitement. And all the good stuff. And I you know when you're in surrender, like you're literally waiting for the crash. You do have the empowerment moments and you're just waiting for the crash and you're like, where is it? So like for the last, I don't know how long, I can't put a timer on it, but like for the last while I've been in the illumination stage and I've been feeling really good, really excited, knowing that it's going to happen, not fearing, not doubting anymore, just complete and utter calm. I'm empowered. I'm ready. I'm strong in my boundaries. I can do this. And it's really good to finally see the top of the mountain. And I think this is the reason I wanted to do this video, is because I wanted to show you, or to assure you, that the highs and lows are normal. You are in surrender, but you're also in the deepest healing phase of the journey. And I'm here to tell you, it does actually end. Because I know how hard it is to actually be there and go, this is not going to end. This is so frustrating. I'm going to be healing forever. Like, obviously we do continue to heal. We continue to heal. I'm still continuing to heal. I continue to heal in union, all of that kind of stuff. Like, healing never really ends. It's like a maintenance thing on top of doing, past healing as well. But you finally do get to the stage where you're not on your hands and knees anymore. You're not bleeding anymore. You're not fucking desperate anymore. You're not crawling, but you're not falling anymore either. You're just walking casually up to the top of the mountain, knowing everything is going to be all right. And it's absolutely amazing. It's like, literally, it's just such a weight lifted to fucking get proof. And I'm not talking about physical proof. I'm not talking about, communication or anything like that. There was a small bit of communication with me and my twin, but like, there was nothing substantial. But like, nothing has changed much in the physical world. But inside me, I feel really good. And it's not, I'm not going to crash, because like, every time I get a trigger now, I can heal it really quickly. Every time I get a trigger, I don't go back down into that hole. Do I mentioned this before. Instead of we're in the state when we're in surrender, like, we end, every time we get a trigger or heal a wound, we go back down into that darkness. When you get to the illumination stage, you're up here in your light, and you bring the darkness up to release it. So like, you don't deplete by doing the work now. You actually stay in your power, and you're able to release it quicker. And it's really, really it's good. It's really good. Like, it's empowering. It's just, it's so good. I don't know how to explain it except saying it's really good. Like, that you do get out of surrender mode. And I have read that you can go from illumination to surrender again, illumination to surrender. But on the energy that I'm in now, I do feel unstoppable. I feel stronger than I've ever felt, and I feel surer than I've ever felt. You know what I mean? I'm not waiting for that phone call. I'm not waiting for that text message. I'm not wondering when it's going to happen. I honestly don't care when it happens. I just know it will. And I'm not afraid that it's going to take too long. I just know. And to get, like, I want to reassure you that this energy of bipolar fucked upness does actually come to an end. You too move higher, because as I said, like, as you go through each stage or each phase of the journey, you're like, oh, I'm moving forward. Oh, I'm moving forward. Oh, I'm moving forward. Then you get surrendered. It's like, oh, I'm not moving forward at all. And it's like, I go backwards and then forward, backwards, forward, backwards, forward. And you're literally like, is this working? Have I literally come to it's like a glitch in the system. It's like, you know what I mean? You do the work and then it looks like you didn't do the work. And then you do the work and then it looks like you didn't do the work. And you're like, oh my God, this is so frustrating. So, I'm just here to tell you that you do get past the crazy. You do get past that stage. And I didn't ever think it could happen. I genuinely, no matter how much I believed in this journey and how much of a guide I know I am, I still doubted. I still got confused. And as I said, nothing has changed so much physically in my connection just yet. But deep down in my core, in my soul, I know I've done enough work to get me closer to union. And I know I know the hardest part is over. Like, I'm not saying that when union happens, it's going to be fucking all unicorns and rainbows. There's going to be healing. Like, every relationship is going to need work within as well. And so is our twin flame connection. It's going to need work within as well. Like, I'm not afraid of that work anymore. I think when you're in surrender, it's like your shields are down, and it's like, oh my God, am I ever going to get stronger? Am I ever going to get past the torture, as we call it? Because I healing isn't torture. It's actually really good. But like, it's hard when it feels like you're going through the same thing over and over again. It just really gets it's draining. It gets very, very draining. But when you actually move out of that phase and into an energy of This is paying off. I feel really good. I feel calm. I'm not worried anymore. You know what I mean? And it just, I've only ever fantasized about this phase, wondering was it ever real? But it is real, and you'll get past that surrender phase too. You just have to keep trusting your journey, keep pushing forward. Don't give up, because if you give up, you're giving up on yourself. So don't give up. This does get easier. It does get easier. It does. It really does. I'm sitting here and it's fucking easy. Well, it's not. Everything's. It's easy. It's easy now because I feel. I just don't care. Like, what I mean, I don't fear anymore. Of course I care. Like, I don't fear anymore. I'm in the energy of, I trust, I believe, and I know. Even though nothing has happened yet, I know this is happening. I know this is destined. And we're doing the hard work, so it's going to pay off. And trust that if you're doing that work, so are your twin flame. So trust this process, and trust that this bipolar energy, this back and forth energy, this up and down energy, this high and low energy, it does settle. You will start to see the top of that mountain, and this journey will start to get a lot easier. So thank you so much for listening today, and I really hope this resonates. If it does, please like and share, and please subscribe to my channel so I can reach as many people as possible. And if you'd like help on your journey, please book me for a free discovery call today. There's nothing more than to help you on your path. Also, I have another channel called Aligning with Angie, where I share a guided meditation every week. The info for that is in the description box. And I also have a course for sale on healing after narcissistic abuse. The info for that is in the description box as well. And I have a feminine empowerment workshop happening today at 6 p.m. around UK time. Today, July 29th. So if you want information for that to join, please comment below.